According to This Morning poll, 75% of This Morning viewers say they won't be sending their child back to school following the government's plan to begin a phased reopening of primary schools in England from next month.
Well, despite Education Secretary Gavin Williamson saying that the government's approach was based on the best scientific advice, teachers, doctors, councils have raised concerns about whether it's actually safe to do so.
Well, joining us now to discuss their decisions on whether or not to send their children back to the classroom are Jemma Thompson and Therese Bertrand. Welcome to both of you. And Jemma, let's start with you first of all. So you've got Ollie, who's 5, so he would be going back to school in a couple of weeks. When you first heard about this, how did it make you feel as a parent?
Initially, I was scared. They're not opening pubs and stuff for social distancing reasons, and having a 5-year-old, they can't social distance, so it's the worry of catching it, of passing it round, and just of a gathering where we're being told we shouldn't be socially meeting up with people.
And so you say that you feel that they're being used as guinea pigs?
I do, to a certain extent, because no one knows what would happen if we sent them all back. One of the first things to happen before lockdown was that the school shut. So sending them back first at age 5, I don't think it's really necessary when the older children maybe could go back. And I know there's people out there who obviously haven't had a choice but to send them NHS Heroes children and stuff, but that's a small number. And now we're talking about sending the whole lot back in smaller classes. And it just worries me. It stresses me how the teachers will have to cope with this situation. Also, the new teaching environment that's going to be happening. It's all very worrying.
And do you worry at all that your son is missing out on education by being at home?
Oh, yeah, definitely. He's definitely missing out. But he has plenty of time at the age of 5 to catch up with his education. I'm doing a bit of like homeschooling, but obviously nowhere near as good as going to school. He's also missing out on the social aspect, but I just feel like he's safer at home with me at the moment.
Even though we've been told countless times that he's not really at very much risk, that children, if they do catch COVID-19, generally across the board, it is a very, very mild illness, if anything at all.
Yeah, he could then pass it to my family, and we don't know how our bodies would deal with it. And also the worry of, if we feel the schools that now, those people on the front line, could we pass it to their children who then pass it to them, and so on.
So how long are you prepared to wait? Because if there's a lot of talk at the moment of this vaccine, apparently 30 million doses, possibly, maybe, in September. And at the same time, we are being told that there may never be a vaccine. We might just have to live with this year on year. So how long until you say, I'm going to have to send him back now? He's 25.
No, it won't be that long. I'd absolutely be over the moon if there was a vaccine. It'd make me feel a lot happier and safer sending him back. Just really when the numbers come down, when the social distancing becomes more relaxed for everyone, really, because that's my initial concern, is the social distancing and his mental health going back to an environment he's not used to, which I know will eventually have to happen. But at the moment, I feel uncomfortable with it.
OK, all right. Well, look, thank you for joining us this morning. Let's speak to Therese now. So you are a French cognac producer. You live in Cognac region with your husband. You've got 2 sons, Richard, who's 6, and Tommy, who's 9. Classes have gone back to school in France, in your region. The classes have been split into 2. The children only go in 2 days a week, and classes are kept under 15. They don't have to wear masks at primary level, but teachers do wear masks or a visor. You're expected as a parent to take the children's temperatures every day. There's no canteen. The children have to bring in their packed lunches. So there are systems in place. When you first heard about this, how did you feel? Were you keen to send them back?
Well, I was also stressed, and we've sat with my husband and we decided to talk about it. And we thought, okay, what is going to be put in place to preserve and sort of protect our children? And also, how do they feel? Would they be willing to go back to school? Because I think their mental health is as important as their physical health. And when I had a personal conversation with the teachers, both of them, they explained to us, and we actually felt comfortable with it. And we thought, okay, let's just give it a try. There are solutions that are being put in place. And I think they were really happy to go back to school. So, and the result was actually very positive.
Have you noticed the difference in them?
Yes. As soon as I picked up my Richard, my first child, I remember I was waiting almost for an hour. I was so stressed. He came back and he hugged me and he said, "Mama, it's so good to be back home." And it's just, there was a little sparkle, and I was just really happy.
And what would happen then? Say, because I mean, kids, as soon as they start mixing with each other, I mean, regardless of anything else, colds spread around the classroom. What happens if one of the kids get ill at the school? What does the school do then? Is that class then not allowed? Do they all have to self-isolate again? How does it work?
So they have a system in place. So they will be taken several times their temperatures. And if one person has a little bit of a higher temperature, the child has been put into a separate room and the parents are called immediately. So the child is being isolated for a couple of hours until the parents come to pick the child and then eventually does what's necessary.
Do you think British parents are too concerned?
I think as a parent, we're never concerned enough. You know, you always want to protect your child, and it's normal to be worried and stressed. But you also have to give a bit more credit to the children. I just had a quick conversation with the secretary of the town hall, and she said she was overlooking the courtyard and all the kids during recess. And she said she was really impressed. They were all like pretty much separated into different areas. And it's quite impressive. I think we need to give them a bit more credit. And they're very adaptable. It's amazing, their high capacity to adapt.
Oh, thank you, Therese.
Thanks
for joining us today. Our resident doctor and mum of three, Dr. Philippa Kaye, joins us now. Philippa, you've got the facts, you've got the figures. So what's going on in your head?
So I've got three children, and patients always ask me, you know, what would you do for your child, or what would you do for your mum? And the truth is that mine will be going back. And I have one in reception, and they'll be going back. And this is why. When we think about it, we need to think about it, are they safe from a COVID point of view? There is nothing that any government can do which is 100% guaranteed to be safe. But when we look at the facts and the figures and the modelling, which is done, for example, on the basis of SARS and other epidemics that we have had, some things are really clear. Firstly, children do the best out of every single age group, demographic that you can think of. Children do the best with this illness, okay? Secondly, they don't seem to be super spreaders like they are with seasonal flu. So they don't seem to be as infectious as adults are. So they're not really driving the spread around. And so actually closing the schools on its own was thought to have far less of an impact than other measures, for example, self-isolating and socially distancing. And when you think about children, and we think about especially our vulnerable children, the impact of staying at home on both their physical and mental health is really, really significant.
But so, Philippa, if we're learning more about this all the time, I mean, this is the sort of term before the summer holidays, essentially. It's sort of 4 or 5 weeks. Why is there such a rush to get them back now? Why not wait and start afresh in September when you've got a whole lot more information in front of you and you can actually give some solid answers?
So a couple of reasons for that. First of all, as we release lockdown further and further and the other distancing measures, potentially there's more virus in the community. So you want to do something which potentially has less impact on that R value, and all the science so far suggests that opening the schools would be that. So you want to do the measures that cause less of a problem first. And the other thing is that I know that some parents are saying, oh, it's only been 25 school days and it will only be another 30 or so school days. But actually, we know that that loss of formal education at such a young age will have an impact which is significant for many, many years to come. It is the access to formal education which is the biggest predictor of health worldwide.
What about, and we're hearing more and more about Kawasaki syndrome. There's a possibility that that there is this sort of secondary infection that that has put children into hospital with a serious condition. Isn't that something that parents should be considering?
So the Kawasaki syndrome is something called multi-system and inflammatory syndrome. It is exceptionally rare. There have been, and I'm not belittling these numbers at all, there have been approximately 10 deaths in the UK from children in comparison to 33,000 in adults. So those numbers are very tiny, and I'm not belittling them. But if you look at the risks and benefits in general for a population, the holistic benefit for a society of children is to go back.
All right, thank you.
All right,
Thank you
for
very much
joining
indeed.
us. Thank
Thanks,
you very
Philippa.
much.